Modes of production are how we as humans procure the resources needed to sustain and reproduce ourselves. Modes of production are the way in which we acquire the 5 elements needed for human survival: food, water, fire, shelter, and medicine. In order to live, we must have these things. And in order to have these things, we must have productive forces, with which food, water, fire, shelter, and medicine can be procured. The productive forces existing in a given society define its mode of production. Productive forces are a synthesis of both labor power and the means of production. In Volume 1 of Capital, Karl Marx defines labor power as, quote, the aggregate of those mental and physical capabilities existing in a human being, which he exercises whenever he produces a use value of any description, unquote. In other words, labor power is how we make active use of our minds and bodies to acquire the 5 elements needed for our survival. Marx also adds, quote, labor power becomes a reality only by its exercise. It sets itself in action only by working, but thereby a definite quantity of human muscle, brain nerves, etc. is wasted, and these require to be restored, unquote. In order to work, we must reproduce ourselves, and in order to reproduce ourselves, we must work. Both are dialectically connected and mutually dependent upon one another. Means of production refers to the tools, raw materials, machinery, and facilities used in the production of goods and services. These goods and services satisfy both the needs and desires. The means of production are useless without labor power, and labor power is useless without means of production. Together, labor power and means of production determine the productive forces of a given society, and the productive forces of a given society define its mode of production. Consistent with the Marxist theory of historical materialism, there are 6 modes of production that correspond to 6 eras of human history. Currently, we find ourselves in the capitalist mode of production. Under capitalism, the capitalist class exploits and is in command of both labor power and the means of production. This is because of the relations of production under class society, which we'll go over in a future video. These are modes of production.